It's so pretty. Hey, it's Chimbeard here, and the Skyrim steel axe is done. When we last left off, it was just being assembled, and now I have put the finishing touches on it. This is, again, the Skyrim steel axe kit that I got from my friend Harrison over at Volpin Props, and if you go to volpinprops.com, you can order your own kit. The bulk of the rest of the work on this was this handle, and this is actual leather. This is a piece of cow leather that I got from McPherson's Leather in Seattle. And I followed a tutorial that Kathy from God Save the Queen Fashions put together. I'll put a link to that down below. But she did some of the leather work on Harrison's axes and put together a really cool little tutorial that really helped me out a lot when I put mine together. The first thing I did was to cut out a piece of leather that was a little bit bigger than I needed and kind of get it down to shape. I accidentally used a piece of legit leather as sort of a template and cut it too small, therefore wasting a piece of leather. So I would recommend using something like craft foam instead to do your template, and then trace that onto your real leather to get the final piece. Once the piece is close enough with some overlap on the back edge, you can wet it down. You can just get it wet, soak it up with a whole bunch of water, and then put it around the handle and clamp it with a whole bunch of clamps. Then you let it dry. I ended up letting mine dry over the weekend for a couple of days, and it was definitely dry by the time I took the clamps off. But then it had retained the shape of the handle. With the handle piece all shaped out, I was able to trim off the extra leather and start punching some holes so that I could lace this thing up. There are two sets of laces on this, a functional one and a decorative one. So I made sure to punch holes for both of those before the whole thing got put together. Then I started lacing it up. Using 2 needles, I was able to lace the back of it up with some hemp string. This first one was the functional lacing that really pulled the whole thing together. Then I tied it up and super glued it off so that it would not go anywhere. With the functional laces all put on, I went and gave it a couple of coats of dye. You can get just normal leather dye from any leatherworking store. And then again, I let it dry. And in this case, it wasn't necessary, but I let it dry overnight. When the handle piece was all dry and the leather was good to go, I went back in and did the decorative stitching on the back of it. This was more of that hemp string, and I had a heck of a time getting it together because it's hard to stitch through something that's already flat on a piece of plastic. But I used a couple of curved needles, and I in fact broke one because I was being a little rambunctious with my needle nose pliers. But I was able to get that all laced together and then wrapped around the top of the handle. Then I did a little bit more of this decorative stuff here where it sort of crisscrosses and ties on either side. And then finally terminates at the top of the handle with a whole bunch of wraps around it. And again, glued down with a touch of super glue so that will not come unraveled. There are 2 more little pieces of this kit. These guys right down here at the end. They are also cold cast pieces of plastic, so they got all nice and buffed up like the rest of it. And I heated them with a heat gun so that I could bend them just a little bit so they would fit the contour of the handle. And then those suckers got super glued down. Finally, I needed to finish this thing off. And the metal parts, which were already buffed with some steel wool, got the treatment with a bunch of this Mother's aluminum polish. This stuff is fantastic. And what you do is you put a little bit of the polish on, and then you grab another rag and you buff it off. And it gives a super awesome sheen to the cold cast aluminum pieces. I went over all of those pieces with the polish, and then I needed to weather this just a little bit, just a bit. I didn't want to go too crazy, but I went over the whole thing with some black and brown acrylic paints and then just wiped them down to keep a little bit of grime in the low areas. I also did the same thing on the handle here, mostly just like a really watered down acrylic to kind of dirty this up a little bit. That's it. That's the whole build. Once again, this is just an extraordinary kit. Like, seriously worth the money. Go get one because they're amazing. I think I put maybe another 20 bucks in materials for the leather and the string. Maybe a little bit more for the dye. I already had some, but totally worth it. This is a kit and a piece that I will keep in my collection for a very, very long time, and I will probably bring it with me the next time I wear my Skyrim armor. So once again, you can go to volpinprops.com to check out more of Harrison's work and to get your own kit. For my stuff, I've got a bunch of other videos coming up. I've got to finish my Dread helmet. I did an Assassin's Creed axe yesterday, and a whole crap load of other stuff. So you should definitely go subscribe and stay tuned, because I got a whole lot more stuff for you.